All right, guys, I am going to get cracking. So, right, so here we go. This is the secret or the missing link to fat loss? Now, obviously, we talk about being in a true calorie deficit for fat loss, or and most people feel like they are in a calorie deficit. They think that they're doing all the things right. And you know, the truth can be really hurtful at times when you hear actually you're not in a calorie deficit because you're not losing fat. Now, if they are being accurate with their nutrition and yet they're still not losing body fat, either the calories aren't low enough, or it could be that they're not moving enough NEAT. So what is NEAT? Is it the most important thing you haven't heard of? Quite possibly. If you've been a member of DMF for some time, you will have heard me go on about your step count and your movement and your general day-to-day. And NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or the amount of energy that you expend from being a human being. And remember, it's all subjective and individual to each person. And there's a number of different reasons as to why. And we're going to go through, because I know at least 2 people on here like to compare themselves to other people and wonder why things are different for them compared with other people. And this might clarify some stuff. Like I say, any questions, let me know. That's spelt wrong. Jesus Christ. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that's supposed to be an E. It's the calories that you burn that's not from planned exercise, such as walking, standing, fidgeting, which is a really interesting thing to pay attention to, and I'll kind of delve into that a little bit further. Holding your posture, standing upright, etc., and chewing. So in today's massively off-putting thing, I've got this horrendous pain in my leg, which I'm having a blood test for tomorrow, so that's going to be really off-putting. So hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't, it's because I'm a little bit off-put. Last week it was bloody background noise, and this week it's my leg doing something weird. There it is, spelled correctly. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So we can see here the difference in, that's wrong as well, that's supposed to be 3 miles per hour. You see the difference here. Resting, sitting motionless, sitting whilst fidgeting. So obviously sitting whilst fidgeting expends a further 38 calories per hour in sitting motionless. And actually sitting while fidgeting expends 20, is that 20? 30 calories more than standing motionless. And then obviously as you get into the nitty-gritty stuff, walking, and how much walking changes with the different miles per hour, quite kind of eye-opening, really, the amount of calorie expenditure. So if you look at walking at 3 miles per hour, which is 63, not 2, is 304 calories. Now this is subjective to somebody's size, of course, but let's take an average of 304. If you think in a weight training session, I will only expend probably around about 305 to 500 calories in a training session, and on the bike, not too much more either. So probably only about 700 calories on a decent road ride. So if you look at sitting whilst fidgeting, 300 calories in a full work day. It's a lot. So 60 calories per hour difference between standing motionless and standing whilst fidgeting. So quite a lot there, guys. You can see the difference. So how much non-exercise activity thermogenesis has a massive impact on fat loss. So it says here, we often focus our attention on and efforts on burning calories in 1 hour every 2 to 3 days exercise, or for some, they think they should be doing it every day. Absolutely not true. What about the huge impact of the remaining 23 hours? So it's the most adaptive or variable part of our energy expenditure. It's the easiest thing to manipulate because you can recover from it better than anything else. So train too much and you watch your nutrition become much harder. The amount of people I have to say to, you think you can out-train a rubbish diet or lifestyle. You can't, because your appetite is almost impossible to control. People get it the wrong way around. So it's variable in that it's situational, environmental. We can talk about individuals or go into it, how things like anxiety can massively impact it. So if you look at so there was a study done in 1986. Guys, make sure you come on with no video, and you're muting. Remember what we said about making sure that we're not interrupting the presentation. So it shows here, a study by Ravison in 1986, that some individuals, when overfed, burned up to 800 calories per day by just fidgeting more. 800 calories. That's like an entire meal, or a lot of people's entire daily, half a daily intake for a lot of people. So that said, they're having other studies, and there is obviously anecdotal evidence as well, which show that generally when you overfeed obese people, they don't move more, and that's why they gain weight. So it's a very subjective thing. So when we diet, our body wants a lower expenditure. It doesn't care what you want, basically. The only goal of your body is to survive. So when you go too low on calories, it allocates those calories away from the non-essential stuff, such as your reproductive system, which is why competition prep people bodybuilding, bikini prep people, their sex drive goes through the floor, because your body allocates energy away from the reproductive system. So that coupled with a drop in testosterone, etc. It's the same. So as soon as you lower your calorie intake, your body just wants to say, actually, I'm going to move less. So when people go, I'm going to go on a super low calorie diet, but they don't lose any weight, not only do they end up binging generally, but they end up moving less. So they're kind of counterbalancing that calorie deficit anyway. Your body doesn't care what you think or want, really. But we're not special, we're all the same, but it's just how to apply it and how to understand this stuff. Less standing, less walking, less talking means lethargy. So how you're feeling. So if you overdo stuff, and we're going to go into how exercise could massively impact that, because we look at the 300 to 500 calories from an hour's worth of training. We go, oh yeah, well, I did that. But actually, is it having an impact on the rest of your day, which you can see, which could be up to 800 calories a day extra. And then there was a study done in 2007. Oh, God, I made that last. A study done in 2007 which showed the major difference between the elderly and the young. And this is where they say, it's because of my age. So actually, you don't have a massive drop in calorie expenditure naturally, or metabolic rate, as you get older year by year. It does drop, but it's so insignificant, it's not even worth talking about. However, we let it become an excuse. And here's the study. So you can see, all right, the difference in minutes per day between the young and the elderly. All right, so you can see here. Oh, all right. You can see here, this is huge. Hardly any stand time comparatively. Well, I was not saying hardly any stand time. There's a lot less stand time. So the average was roughly, over 100 minutes a day less for the elderly. Sit time was significantly increased. and then the lie time was actually slightly different, but this is completely, the most important thing. And then you can see here the difference in walk time, young and the elderly, and the distance walked, miles per day, young and elderly, and it's kind of spread out here, but you can see the correlation is massively, higher for the young compared to the elderly. So basically, what that study is saying is a lifestyle choice. Are you becoming overweight, or are you getting overweight as you get older because you're getting older and that's what happens, or is it just the choices that you're making? And I think this just answers that question. Okay. So there was a study done by Wang et al. In 2008, which took 34 overweight postmenopausal women, stuck them on a 20-week calorie deficit at 2,800 calorie, so 2,800 calorie deficit, and then followed each, so they're all on a 2,800 calorie deficit a week, and then followed it up after 12 months. They gave them high intensity walking and low intensity walking diet only. And they tracked their activity outside of the gym. After losing 30 pounds, women lowered their activity by an average of 130 to 180 calories per day, so it's relative to change with lower body weight. Individuals that lowered NEAT the most tended to gain most weight back. So you can train and do all that kind of stuff, but if this is why people think, people do it with weight training, and when they join the gym, they'll go, they'll get great results, and then they go, right, I'm stopping now, I've got where I want to get to, and then they think that they can maintain that physique, and it doesn't work that way. So higher daily steps are associated with lower rates of weight regain post-diet, which is a study done in 99. So, do you compensate after exercise? So some, but not all, but some, lower their NEAT levels after an exercise session. There was a study done with 34 women on a brisk walking plan. Some women increased their activity from non-exercise, while others reduced it, which suggests that it's very individual, this study, which was done 2012. So it looks at the total energy expenditure, and it's very much subjective. So you can see, they lowered their energy expenditure afterwards. So do you compensate? Right. I just want to move on from the slide because it's not great. The slide doesn't really show very much. It's a bit more for personal trainers. Okay, so NEAT 10,000 steps for health. Okay, so there was it's a bit of a kind of round number. Hit that and you'll be okay. But ultimately, they say 10,000 steps is the gold standard. It doesn't actually have to be 10,000 because, if you're on 50, what if you're already on 15,000? Then that's a drop, isn't it? That's just silly. So somebody's, the things which are really important here is to understand that the things that can affect things like step count are your personality. There was a metabolic chamber study done where they took a set of twins, so they're anatomically, physiologically exactly the same. And they stuck them in a metabolic chamber, very, very small. There's just a kitchenette, a toilet, a shower, a two-seater sofa, and a couple of beds, and it is literally tiny. And they basically stuck them in there for a 24-hour period. So they're identical in every way. They fed them the same. They had exactly the same environment, but one twin expended 800 calories over a 24-hour period, more than the other. And all it came down to was movement. So it's a very subjective and individual thing, and this is why you have to say, right, yes, 10,000 steps is a good thing to aim for, but if you're way over that, that's silly to try and hit that. So, but what you should do is look and try to increase incrementally. Things like walking to work and parking further away are really good. Taking breaks to get up from the desk and move around the office. You do, in my job, I am Mr. Excuse Man. So I make lots of excuses for why I don't train or why I drink alcohol and, yada, yada, yada. It's just, they are just excuses, I can make more of an effort to walk more places. I should do that. And I should make more of an effort to drink less or whatever. And this is the thing, is that these are every single person can generally do this stuff. It might seem like a massive chore, but I think the way to look at it is, what do you actually want? You want to be happy, healthy, lean, strong, fit, and all that kind of stuff? Or do we just want to make the excuses? And I think that's quite important. These little things, they seem so trivial, but they amount up. So you can see what we said about, going back to that slide before, where you can expend an absolute bucket ton of calories more in a day just by fidgeting more, which is nuts. If you take somebody who's far more anxious than somebody else, they are naturally, that's one of the reasons why. Yes, they have suppressed appetite, but also they move a lot. There's fidgety, nervous, and all that kind of stuff, like with nervous disposition. And they generally stay lean. You see super stressed people who have got, it's a bit of a mixed thing there. But I know of about 3 or 4 super stress heads who thrive off stress. They love it. They love stress. They train 100 miles an hour, everything. And they're lean and they struggle to gain body weight. They struggle, so they're the opposite. You take their step count and it's absolutely unreal. So again, it's a very subjective thing. But these little things can mount up, and that's what's important. Walking meetings, so I do this. I like to go out on the phone. If I'm speaking to any of my online clients or anything like that, I've got some things to do. I go out and walk around the car park and do things. Not because I choose to or I care about my step count, because I don't. But this is what I do. So I just don't like standing still. Says don't take them as gospel and calorie expenditure. So these things are crap for that. So that's not for that reason. Fitbits and stuff you shouldn't track your calorie expenditure at all. It's completely inaccurate. And the MyZone stuff as well that we use in the gym, yeah, they're great, but don't use it to track calories. Use it to track your fitness, your recovery, how hard you trained, and whether you should have trained that hard and all that kind of stuff. Don't track your calories because it's not accurate. So the more calories we expend through meat, the higher we can keep food when dieting. And this is my point with a lot of people who struggled. You don't want to be on low calories. You want to be on as higher calories when you're dieting as you possibly can. It gives you more flexibility, more freedom, less restriction. It means that you can have a bit more social time without stressing about silly little things. You're going to get a lot more of a buffer. So you want to keep those calories as high as you possibly can. And by getting your NEAT up to a decent level and keeping it there and manipulating it, this is what I love doing. I love doing this with my bodybuilding clients. I've got a young 17-year-old bodybuilding client at the moment. He's on some decent calories. He's getting absolutely shredded. But his step count's 20K. Yeah, he's got the time to do 20,000 steps a day. He has got that time. So, and that's why it's all, like I say, a relative thing. But that's how I do it. You shouldn't be using training to look at your calorie expenditure. It's your NEAT and your nutrition. Basically, I don't know many people who should exercise 7 days a week. It is physically and psychologically taxing. I talk about the effects of training on mental health. Too little training can be negative. Too much training is very negative. And managing and understanding that is really important. And people get it the wrong way around all the time. They train, but they can't keep everything else in check, and they don't understand why. And this can be one of the main ways that you can get fat loss. If I bumped everybody's up by 25%, kept their calories the same, you lose fat. And it doesn't break you. It doesn't make your appetite too high, whereas training does do that. Getting out more, walking, moving, and remaining active is achievable and often help you recover. So we do active recovery as well. So it's absolutely right in saying what we say, which is, and what we've just covered there about training, is your training is there for a reason. We should be there to force an adaptation to get fitter, stronger, and move better. Those are the three, or gain muscle. Those are the 3 or 4 main principles of why we should train. Training more for that reason is going to actually impact those reasons. So unless you're an athlete, you shouldn't be training as often. General exercise, moving, recovering, walking more, being active, like this stuff, will actually help you recover rather than hinder it, like hard training does all of the time. And nobody is exempt from that. Not a single person, not even athletes. Athletes have their training schedules built up to peak after 4 years. So athletes for the Olympics, 4-year training peak. You look at professional footballers, they have 2, on average, Premier League footballer plays on average 1.5 times 90 minutes a week. That's not a great deal, and they train, but they don't do anything else. And this is important. These guys are 300-400 grand a week people. And we seem to think we're different. We're better than them. We can do it. We're better than elite athletes. And it is, it can be real hard in our jobs to say, listen, you can't. But doing this stuff really, really helps. So monitoring NEAT levels during and after dieting can play a key role in helping to promote and sustaining weight loss. So long-term remaining lean after, and this is why people should have an exit strategy after they've got to where they want to be, because it can play an absolutely key role. And that is NEAT. So I will open it up. It's 9:25, so I'll open it up to any questions, and I'll do my best. We've got to have some questions here, because I can see at least 3 or 4 people who would 100% benefit from what we've just discussed, rather than hard, heavy training all the time. If not, don't worry. If you've got any questions, don't hide. Oh, no questions at all. So there's absolutely no questions at all. Anyone think they're special on this stuff and think that it's different for them? Or any questions? I obviously skipped out a couple of slides, so I just didn't think they were particularly relevant. Should have done that beforehand. So can you overdo NEAT versus exercise? So you can't substitute exercise for just using NEAT? Or could it be more effective for fat loss then? Can you overdo NEAT? Not really. It's pretty hard to overdo NEAT. So the only way, you've got to think, like, if you're real hungry all the time, it's the bad, so what I mean? If you spend loads of calories, if you're, let's say hypothetically, right, you go, right, I'm averaging 5,000 steps a day. I'm going to do 20,000 steps a day because Dan said doing more NEAT's better. This is what everybody does usually. They go, so to focus on activity and then not need much time for exercise. Again, it's a subjective thing, isn't it? You don't need to massively upregulate that, dude. You just need to think a bit more. This is where people need to stop being black and white. Which great question and well done for putting. But people are very black and white, aren't they? They're like, well, so I should do a lot less of one. No, you can do both. So if you train sensibly, which is where I would think a lot of people fall down. They don't have a good balance of training versus NEAT. So if you increase your average NEAT, if you're on like 3,000 steps, then yeah, you need to sort that out. But if you're on, if you're on like 5,000-6,000 steps and we go hit 10,000, it's not unreasonable, and you should still be able to train. And then you'll get quicker fat loss as well. But everything needs to be reasonable rather than reckless. Everybody's too reckless with their changes. They're always like, right, boom, I'm going to go mad. And then they wonder why they struggle to keep their appetite in check, because your body is quite a clever organism. We're the most studied animal on this planet, and not many people know enough about this stuff that, you know, that we speak to. So you can't cheat your body. You can't say, oh, right, so I'm suddenly going to massively upregulate calorie expenditure and keep everything else the same, because you won't be able to massively change that, because it's too drastic to make any sense. So we say like a 25% increase is a good place to start, I would say. But yes, if you're training and you're gonna, you know, you can't. If you're training 3 times a week in the gym and you're doing, a cycle, for example, which is adequate training, that's more than enough training, then you're going to lose the benefits of that training. And realistically, I would say, so bear in mind that I do a 70-hour week. My step count's way over 20,000 on average. And that's not, I don't really walk anywhere. I'm just kind of, you know, I'm just an active person. But again, it's subjective. So if you've got 5,000 steps and you've worked out over the last 14 days, yeah, I'm 5,000 roughly, and you go to 7,500, I think that works out about right, then that's a good increase, isn't it? But yeah, don't just drop everything, but just look at your balance.
It's quite interesting. It's about
Liz, you had a raised question. So what was that?
Not doing exercise, but keeping active.
Yeah. Do that. I don't. I can't get my phone.
It's only 6,250 steps. Sorry, that would have been a 50% increase, wouldn't it? But even then, I think going to 7,250 is not an unreasonable amount of steps to ask somebody to do. And this is the thing at DMF, is we will never ask you to do anything which is unreasonable. I don't think 7,500 steps is particularly difficult for anybody to achieve. It can be a tough ask at first for some, but realistically, it should be pretty comfy. Any other questions, guys? Because it is getting late now, so I'm not trying to rush you, but like if you've got, yeah, it's back to that balance. Exactly that. This is, again, people need, nearly everybody needs to learn balance and what that balance means, because everybody thinks that they're special, but nobody is. Obviously, we're all special in our own little way, but when it comes to fat loss, exercise, human physiology, we're just not that special. We're just all built pretty much the same. And the reasons why people go, oh, I've always struggled because of this, and this, is because they probably haven't got things the right way around. It's not that their body is special. It's because they have got the wrong attitude to stuff. Like it's all train. But, oh God, but binge on food because they're training too hard. They're making it impossible for themselves. And that's the thing, is learning that balance. Interesting to thinking about standing and moving at work. I think I'm guilty of sitting still on the sofa. Yeah, so again, you know, you can see how much energy expenditure you can see how much expenditure, now the questions come flooding in. The expenditure that you get from meat is far higher over the course of a day than an hour's worth of training, and this is where people go wrong. So making a conscious decision to move more generally is going to be paramount and much easier to control than just hard training, which is where everybody seems to think they should be. What does NEAT stand for? It stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or the amount of calories that you expend from moving about, basically. What counted as fidgeting in the study? I don't know. Does it matter how consistent your steps are day to day? If you do 20, no, it doesn't. It matters your average over time. So that's that black and white mentality again, where you say, I'm good one day, I'm bad the next day. I had some chocolate, therefore I'm a shit person. I had a glass of wine, I'm rubbish. Oh, I had vegetables today, I'm good. It's what you do over time. So if you are averaging, so if you've got 20,000 over 3 days and 5,000 on the other 4, that's 20,000 plus 60,000. So that's 80,000 steps. So 80,000 steps divided by 7 is going to be what? 11,000? 11,428. So yeah, no, it doesn't. It matters what you do as an average. I just looked at some studies online, and the evidence to increase NEAT is powerful. Thanks, Liz. Obviously, my word wasn't good enough, and all the studies there. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. And you should absolutely. I actually encourage you to do your own research, but you've got to know where. And this is the problem with doing your own research. Is if you're doing your own research and it's coming from Sue from Accounts or that dickhead Davina McCall or Joe Wicks or all these other people who think that they know what they're talking about. You know, are we getting it from trustworthy sources? The likelihood is no. And there's so much on the internet about all sorts of stuff, but you know, whether it's coming from the right place is, and whether it's true is something else. And this is why we're doing this, so that you have some good, clear information, and that you can understand that we aren't just giving you lip service. This is real. I was interested when you were talking about university studies. I was looking for fidgeting ideas. I was joking. It's so easy to wind you up. I'm achieving so much more movement now thanks to training. Naturally move further without planning it. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so Andrew, obviously from just being able to physically move better, you can move more around without struggling. And that goes for everybody. If you've got to move, change your environment as well. And if your environment around you, like some people's work just flat out work. If you're like a taxi driver, for example, they're gonna struggle like mad, aren't they, to increase their NEAT. So how could we do it? But you just look at the shift patterns and say, well, where can you make an active decision? You know, why do taxi drivers gain loads of weight, for example? There's many different reasons, but they're sat in their arse all day in a car. So any other questions, gang? Anything at all? Please ask if you've got any. No worries. Okay. All right, guys. Well, it looks like everybody's ducking out now, so that's great. Hopefully that makes sense. The takeaway is you are different to every single other person that's here. It does not matter what anybody else is doing. It doesn't matter what anybody else's step count, calorie intake, training systems, plans, whatever else the hell they are doing. The key with everything is whatever you're doing for yourself, if it is conducive to your goals long term, you're doing things and you've got all this stuff right for you specifically, and you then look to improve on that, then you're winning. And that's the same as step count and etc. So don't look at everybody else's step count and go, why? Oh, I need to do that many, that person's. It's relative to you. It's really important that you understand that. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, iPhone, whoever that is. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, Seb. Go have a look at that study, mate, and see what they said fidgeting is. I can't remember. It's a little blue line on the screen.
Right.
Okay.
Some good points for me to think about while chilling by the pool. Thanks, Lee. I'm going to get you on that. Oh, mate, I'm going to get beasted. Yeah, Lee, a great one for you, really, obviously, because where you think you're, we all think, like I do with food tracking, I forgot that I missed off 900 calories the other day. Missed 900. But your NEAT, obviously, we're trying to lose body fat. And when your step count's low, you're kind of fighting a losing battle. It's a real hard one, especially if your calories are so low. So, yeah. Right, that's it, guys. Thanks very much. I will speak to you later.